Hi guys, I'm Jianing, the first one. So if you know me, you must know I'm a huge nerd for healthcare, and without any surprise, I'm still going to talk healthcare. Please bear with me. I'm going to talk about what's going to happen for healthcare and how technology is actually accelerating this. So this story started before I came to AMBS. I decided to get a whole body check because I didn't know how much it cost to go to the doctor here. And then my left foot felt a little bit hurt after walking for a whole day. I was like, okay, it's fine. Everyone gets their foot hurt. And then I got an x-ray and the doctor said, actually you have an extra bone in your foot. I was like, okay, it took me 27 years to realize I have an extra bone in my foot. And that made me realize that, so actually when we're talking about healthcare, it's not healthcare. The system is now a sick care system. We are sitting there for the sick to come and treat it. We're waiting for the heart attack to come. We're waiting for a headache, and then we realize that's a tumor in your head. But what we really, really want is just to become healthy. So if you look at this, you will realize that scientifically there has been a lot of amazing breakthrough in healthcare. People's life expectancy has grown so much. Just between 2000 and 2016, the global average life expectancy has grown 5.5 years, especially shown in Africa region. But on the other hand, the technology we're using in the healthcare system are extremely outdated. So can you imagine that just until December 2018, 40% NHS trust, around 9,000 fax machines are still in use. People use fax machine to request a kidney transplant, and you definitely don't want that to happen in yourself. Even the former chair of the NHS said that the healthcare system is now in an information dark age. And if you look at how much it costs for healthcare, actually, in a lot of countries, it costs a lot for the whole GDP, especially for the US. Now it's costing around 20%, and if this keeps growing and all the US people are going to spend all their money in healthcare and China is going to take over the world, I'm going to be happy to see it, but...
Sorry, I just read a message.
Sorry, no QA session here. But I will have a talk later. Sorry, we're running out of time, sorry. But, okay, to avoid countries like US to go bankrupt, there's something that the healthcare system needs to do, and it is already changing. So first is the payment system. So far it's called volume-based. So the doctors charge the government based on how many times you go to the doctor. You go to the doctor once in a month, they charge you this amount. You go more, they charge you more. But it doesn't really link to the result. Like, no matter how much you go, it doesn't necessarily to make you healthier, cure you. So in the future, the health system is going to change into a value base. So it's becoming based on what's the performance of the treatment, so that the healthcare provider, they will value more about cost efficiency and even the patient's satisfaction. For example, if the hospital is prettier, it's cleaner, or simply the staff is nicer. Another thing is health owner. So I think even for our parents' generation, whenever they got treated, they go to the doctor, and whatever the doctor says, they just take it and take the pills. But nowadays, if you find something uncomfortable, instead of going to the doctor, you Google first. Probably 9 out of 10, you're going to learn that you got a cancer. But that's an extreme level. But in the future, when we know more and more about ourselves and all this health device like iWatch, Fitbit, you become the owner of your health, and you got to decide what you can do in the future. And finally, treatment. So like I just said, so far it's been a reactive. We sit there, wait for things to happen. But with more and more technology, especially for the genomic science, we can predict what is going to happen in our body and prevent those things from happening. It's becoming from reactive to proactive healthcare. I'm just talking about very framework-wise change, but actually technology is one of the key things that's making this change happen. I'm not gonna bother you with all these buzzwords, but this is something that really close to our life. And for example, like AI. So the DeepMind, the company that belongs to Google, last year or a few years ago, they had this AI algorithm that can detect skin cancer. The accuracy was 95%, where the average accuracy for a doctor to see is around 80%. So we're in an age that technology is actually changing the healthcare and actually providing us change. So I'm just gonna introduce some examples. For example, connected device. I'm sure one of you will have something like iWatch or even just an app to monitor your heartbeat, how many steps you have every day. But actually, this is growing to a more matrix time. For example, Manchester Manchester are selected as one of the first cities to try the implanting chips under your skin, and then they can provide real-time healthcare monitoring. And I'm not sure if you have seen the movie by Justin Timberlake, Time, that you can see how many life you left. It's not going to be that sad, but this is something that actually changing the world. Another is genomics. So there's, for example, this company is one of the most famous genomic testing company, 23andMe. They are charging, if I remember right, is £79. You can understand how many percentage of your ancestors are from, like whether you're 10% British or 10% Latin American, etc. And with £149, you can even get a whole list of your genomic healthcare check. So you can know that whether you are, whether your gene makes you easier to get to type 2 diabetes or goes to Alzheimer even earlier than people. And with this technology, it really helps us to change from sitting there waiting for things to happen to understand what's going to happen to us in the future and prevent it as soon as possible. And finally, this is quite interesting. So it's about virtual reality. So it's just some conceptions here. First, what is the difference between these three? So virtual reality is you have this headset like one of those games you play. It's completely artificial. And then AR, this is, so you're still living in the real environment like the Pokemon Go game. And finally, it's mixed. It's like the mixture between virtual reality and augmented reality. It's like one of those, well, Tom Cruise thing. But it's actually, it's the most instant and it's actually happened around us. For example, for VR, it's a lot of universities, they're taking a lot of organizations across the world, they're taking VR to train their surgical doctors. So reportedly, there are around 30% of surgical doctors, they still don't have the enough techniques to perform surgery simply because they don't have the enough experience. And with this VR environment, they can practice brain surgery or bone surgery that's very sensitive, but in a much cheaper environment. Another thing, it's about mental health. So VR can not actually replace a heart or anything, but especially for people with PTSD or any other rehabilitation, VR is having a great improvement on that. Recently, I just talked to the Professor Robert Davis from University of Salford. He has been leading a team that's using VR technology to treat people that suffered from the Manchester Arena attack in 2017, and it's gaining great success. So I guess I'm just about time. So what I'm trying to say is, even though with all the development of technology and everything, there are a lot of risks. Like, for example, you're the owner of your data, so you need to choose among all these options and who's going to guide you. And also with all the data out there, data privacy, how to control the data, how to use the data, there are a lot of issues. But technology, we cannot deny that technology is actually helping us to move into a better century generation of healthcare. And I believe in it, and I hope you guys can all believe in it. Thank you.